Late afternoons in Bakersfield always had this heavy, slow kind of sunlight, the kind that stretches shadows across the ground like long fingers. I remember sitting on that old metal bench outside the principal's office at Roosevelt Elementary, feeling the heat from the concrete still pushing through the soles of my shoes, even though the day was cooling down. My little legs swung back and forth, not because I was excited, but because I didn't know what else to do with myself. My backpack, the one with the worn straps and frayed zipper, sat clutched tight against my chest like it was the only thing keeping me company. I kept glancing toward the parking lot over and over, waiting to see that familiar silver Honda. It should have been there an hour earlier. Every kid around me had already been scooped up, running off, laughing, yelling, climbing into cars, disappearing into the normal evening their parents built for them. And there I was, just me and Mrs. Henderson, the school secretary who always stayed late on Fridays. She was kind, the sort of woman who looked like she'd seen enough kids come and go to understand when something wasn't right. "Honey, let me try calling your stepmother again," she said. Her voice had that soft edge adults use when they're trying not to worry a child. She was in her 50s, gray hair tied neatly in a bun, reading glasses hanging from a chain that always clinked when she moved. I didn't say anything. I just nodded, though deep down I already knew how it would turn out. Sandra forgetting me wasn't some brand new thing. It had become normal, which might have been the saddest part of the whole situation. My father had remarried her 2 years after my mom died in a car accident. Sandra promised she'd take care of me, said she'd love me like her own daughter, but promises are easy to make when life is simple, harder to keep when things get real. Mrs. Henderson dialed. The phone rang and rang until it finally dumped her into voicemail. She sighed and gave me a look that said more than her words ever could. "No answer, sweetheart. Do you have anyone else I can call?" I shook my head again. My dad, Miguel, was deployed overseas with the Army. 3 more months until he'd be home. Sandra was supposed to be the one watching me, taking care of me, protecting me even, but lately she seemed far more interested in Friday nights and her new friends than in an 8-year-old girl who still needed someone to show up. "My daddy used to have friends here," I mumbled, "before he went away, but I don't know their numbers." Mrs. Henderson crouched down so we were eye to eye, her expression full of warmth and concern. "What kind of friends, honey?" "They rode motorcycles," I said, and for the first time that whole afternoon I felt my face lighten. Big, loud ones. Daddy said they were his brothers. Not real brothers, but brothers. They came to our house sometimes. They were always nice. Uncle Rico taught me how to tie my shoes. That memory warmed me from the inside. These men, leather vests, big boots, beards, they looked tough as steel until they saw me. Then they'd soften like they were built for nothing but kindness. They always lowered their voices, always treated me gently, always showed respect. My dad told me that when a man had brothers like that, he was lucky, because those men knew loyalty, and loyalty was a kind of love. Mrs. Henderson's face changed when I said their name, like she recognized the kind of people I was talking about. The Desert Riders, the local Hell's Angels chapter. People loved to whisper about them in town, about their reputation and their rules. But she must have heard the other stories too, the ones about their honor, how they protected their own. She asked if I remembered any names or places they might be. "Uncle Rico," I said, "Uncle Bones. And Daddy always talked about the clubhouse. Said it was on the old highway, by the big gas station with the broken sign." Mrs. Henderson knew the spot. Everyone in Bakersfield knew that stretch of Highway 58, half-abandoned buildings, old garages repurposed into something else. She straightened up slowly. "Emma, stay right here. I'm going to make another call. to see if there's someone who can reach your daddy's friends." I nodded, but a nervous ache twisted inside me as she walked away. The school was emptying fast. Even the janitors were packing up. The whole place felt hollow, like the world had started shrinking around me. I felt small, forgotten, like some toy accidentally left behind. While I waited, I pulled a picture from my backpack, the one I always kept tucked in the front pocket. My dad stood in his army uniform, one arm slung around his motorcycle, the other around men in leather vests. They looked serious in the photo, but I remembered how they'd laughed that day, how they'd teased each other, cracked jokes, made Dad smile in a way he hadn't since Mom died. That picture was my treasure, my reminder that once upon a time I knew what safety felt like. 20 minutes later, Mrs. Henderson came out of her office with a different look, hopeful but cautious. "Emma," she said gently, "I reached someone who knows your daddy's friends. They're sending somebody to pick you up." My heart jumped. "Really? They remember me?" "They remember you very well, honey. And the man I spoke to, Rico, I think, he sounded very worried when he heard you were here alone. He said they'd be here soon." Relief washed through me like warm water. Uncle Rico had always been my favorite. He was huge, tattoos everywhere, a beard down to his chest, but he had the kindest eyes in the world. He was the one who tied my shoes, the one who brought me ice cream when I cried, the one who promised my father that I'd never be left unprotected. Mrs. Henderson helped me repack my things while we waited. The school was dead quiet now, just the two of us in an empty building. "Mrs. Henderson," I finally asked, "why do you think Sandra forgot me again?" I didn't expect the question to hurt her, but the look in her eyes told me it did. She'd worked with kids long enough to know heartbreak when she heard it. "Sometimes grown-ups forget what's really important," she said softly. "But none of this is your fault, and it doesn't mean you aren't loved. Your daddy loves you, and he made sure there were people here for you." I nodded, but I wasn't sure I believed it, not until I heard it, that sound. At first, it was just a faint rumble, a vibration more than a noise, but it grew fast, louder, deeper, unmistakable. Motorcycles, lots of them. "That's them," I shouted, jumping up. "That's Uncle Rico and the others." Mrs. Henderson looked outside with a mixture of awe and nerves, and honestly, anyone would, because the rumble became a roar, the kind you feel in your chest before you hear it in your ears. Headlights appeared one by one, growing brighter as they rolled into the parking lot. Not a couple bikes, dozens. Big, loud Harleys in a perfect line, engines growling like a pack of lions, chrome shining even in the dimming light. Men in leather vests sitting tall and serious. At the front was a massive Harley, and even through his helmet, even from a distance, I knew it was him. Uncle Rico. Behind him, Bones with his red bandana. Snake with the giant eagle on his tank. More faces I hadn't seen since Dad left. "Emma," Mrs. Henderson whispered behind me. "Do you trust them? These men?" I turned toward her with a smile so big it hurt. "When my mommy died," I said, "I was scared all the time. Daddy cried and everything felt wrong. But they came every day, they brought food, they helped Daddy, and Uncle Rico read stories to me when Daddy was talking to funeral people. He said that if Daddy ever had to go far away, they would protect me forever." Mrs. Henderson blinked fast, trying not to cry. Outside, the bikes shut off one by one, the parking lot falling into a heavy silence as the men dismounted. Rico removed his helmet. His face was weathered, scarred, tough, but his eyes softened the second they landed on me. "Mrs. Henderson," he called, voice deep but respectful. "Thank you for watching our little girl. We got here as fast as we could." I didn't wait another second. I ran straight into his arms. He lifted me up like I weighed nothing. "Uncle Rico, I knew you'd come." "Mija," he murmured, hugging me tight, "did you ever doubt it? Your papa made us promise to watch over you. We don't break promises." Mrs. Henderson watched us with disbelief, like she was seeing two worlds collide. More riders came over. Bones, Snake, Tank, Maria, all the people who'd once filled my home with laughter. "How you doing, little one?" Bones asked gently. "We heard your stepmom forgot you again." Rico's jaw clenched. "This ends tonight." Mrs. Henderson stepped forward, still overwhelmed. "In 20 years working here, I've never seen anything like this." I wasn't forgotten anymore. I was going home, protected, seen, loved. Mrs. Henderson told me Emma spoke highly of us, and I could tell she meant it. When I turned toward her, she studied my face like she was trying to understand who I really was beneath the leather and road dust. Folks usually take one look at a biker and decide he's nothing but trouble. But she saw something different, probably because Emma wouldn't let go of my hand. "Ma'am," I said, keeping my voice steady and respectful, "thank you for staying late with her. Miguel, he's one of our brothers. Which means Emma, she's family, and we don't take that lightly." She nodded slowly, and I could almost see her understanding deepen, like the pieces were falling into place. "I can see that," she said, "but I have to ask what happens now. Legally, Sandra is her guardian while her father's deployed." That question hung in the air like heavy smoke. I could feel her watching me, trying to see whether I was going to do something reckless. But I'm no fool, and neither are my brothers. We know the law. We might not always agree with it, but we damn sure respect the parts that protect kids. "We'll take Emma home," I finally said, "and we're going to have a talk with Sandra about her responsibilities." Mika tugged my hand gently. "What instructions did Daddy leave Uncle Ro?" I knelt down so we were level. No patch between us, no club. Just a man and a little girl he promised to protect. "Your papa's a smart man, Misa. Before he deployed, he made arrangements. He wanted to make sure you'd always be safe, no matter what." Mrs. Henderson caught that. I saw it in her expression. Soldiers make plans. Fathers make sure their kids aren't left drifting. Miguel had done both. "So, you do have some sort of authority?" she asked. Bones stepped in before I answered, his voice like gravel, but steady as bedrock. Miguel made sure we had everything we needed. He knew Sandra wasn't reliable. Emma didn't follow the adult words flying over her head. She didn't have to. She just kept holding my hand, trusting us the way her father trusted us. Behind us, the scene was something to behold. Damn near 100 bikes parked in perfect formation. Riders standing quietly beside them like soldiers awaiting orders. The rumble of their engines had faded, but the weight of their presence filled the parking lot like a wall. Mrs. Henderson whispered, "Why did so many come?" I straightened up, still holding Emma's hand. "Because when one of ours is in trouble, we all show up. Miguel is risking his life for this country." And his little girl was left alone by the one person meant to protect her. That doesn't fly with us. Emma tugged on my vest again. "Uncle Ro, are all these people here for me?" I looked down at her, and I swear my heart almost cracked. "Every single one, Mija. They all remember you. They all love you. And your papa asked us to look after you. When we say yes, we mean it." She waved shyly at the riders. Half of them waved back. Some nodded. Tank folded his arms over his massive chest and gave her that soft smile only she ever got out of him. Wrench grinned, probably already planning to teach her something new about engines. Maria even blew her a kiss. Mrs. Henderson's eyes grew shiny. She'd seen too many kids fall through the cracks to miss what she was witnessing now. Real protection, real loyalty, real family. "What happens next?" she asked. "Next," I said, "we take Emma home, feed her, help with her homework. Then we sit down with Sandra and have a serious talk about what it means to be responsible for Miguel's kid." Emma looked up at me again, hopeful. "And you'll stay with me until Daddy comes home?" "Mija," I said softly, "you're not going to be alone again, that's a promise." When it was time to leave, I grabbed the small helmet one of the guys brought along. Adjusting the straps on her tiny chin felt like adjusting something sacred. I wasn't her father, but that didn't mean I wouldn't protect her with everything I had. "She rides with me," I told Mrs. Henderson. "I've got a special setup on the back of my bike." Miguel made sure she knew how to ride safe. The excitement in Emma's eyes could have lit the whole lot. That ride out of Roosevelt Elementary was something Bakersfield would talk about for years. My Harley led the pack. Emma strapped in behind me, smiling so bright it outshone my headlight. Behind us, 99 more bikes rolling like an army with a mission. For Emma, riding behind me felt like home. I could feel her little arms wrapped tight around my waist, could hear the way she breathed in the smell of leather and engine oil like it was comfort itself. The sun dropped behind us, painting the sky gold and pink. People stopped on sidewalks, cars slowed down, kids pointed, grown men stared. "You good back there, Mija?" I yelled over my shoulder. "This is the best day ever," she shouted back. I swear I felt her joy all the way through my jacket. We kept our speed steady, safe. This wasn't a show of power. It was an escort of a little girl who deserved better than what she'd been getting. When we turned onto Emma Street, the silver Honda in the driveway made my jaw clench. She had been home. She just chose not to come get her. But that anger drowned beneath something bigger. The way Emma squeezed me tighter when she saw her house, like she already knew she wasn't going in alone this time. Almost 100 bikes filled the quiet neighborhood street. Folks stepped outside, shocked, curious, whispering to one another. Our presence wasn't chaotic, it was controlled, precise, like a wall of steel and loyalty. Sandra stepped onto the porch wearing tight jeans, a low-cut top, and enough makeup for a night downtown. Her expression flickered from confusion to fear to irritation. "What the hell is this?" she barked. Emma moved closer to me instinctively. I rested a hand on her shoulder. She was under my protection now, and everyone could see it. "Sandra," I said calmly, "we need to talk." Emma was left at school again. Her cheeks turned red. Anger, embarrassment, maybe both. "I had an appointment. I lost track of time. It happens." "No," I said, my voice turning steel. "It doesn't just happen. Not to family. Not to Miguel's daughter." Bones stepped forward, eyes narrowed. "How many times, Sandra? How many times has she sat alone waiting for someone who never shows?" The riders behind us didn't speak, but their quiet disapproval hit harder than shouting ever could. Sandra tried to defend herself, but I cut her off. "Mrs. Henderson called us because you couldn't be reached, because you forgot. Again." Emma tugged on my vest. "Uncle Ro, don't be mad at Sandra. She's just busy." Even Sandra blinked at that. This child, neglected, forgotten, still rushed to defend her. I knelt again, meeting Emma's eyes. "Mija, sometimes adults need to be reminded what matters. You matter." The neighbors were gathering now. An entire biker chapter standing guard over a little girl wasn't something you see every day. "I think we should take this inside," I told Sandra. Just you, me, and Emma. The others will wait." She hesitated, but the alternative, an audience, pushed her to step aside. Inside, the house felt cold, lifeless. Pictures of Sandra with her friends, but not a single new photo of Emma or Miguel. No drawings on the fridge. No sign a child lived there at all. I sat down, the chair creaking under my size, and looked her dead in the eye. "Miguel trusted you with his daughter. That wasn't a small thing. That was the most important thing he had." Sandra fiddled with her jewelry, trying to justify herself. "I'm doing my best. I didn't plan to be alone in this. I didn't sign up for it." "Yes, you did," I said firmly. "You married him. You promised to love that girl. That promise means something." Emma came out of her room in comfy clothes and climbed up next to Sandra. Her tiny presence made the room feel heavier. "Uncle Ro," she whispered, "Sandra's not mean. She just forgets sometimes." I softened for her, but not for Sandra. "Mija, forgetting isn't okay when it comes to family." Sandra finally looked at her, really looked. "I didn't realize," she whispered. "You were failing her," I said bluntly, "and it stops now." Silence settled like dust. Then Sandra asked, voice trembling, "What do you want from me?" "I want you to put her first," I said. "Every time. She needs safety and consistency. If you can't give that, we discuss other options." Her eyes widened. "What kind of options?" I pulled a folded document from my vest. "Miguel gave me power of attorney. If you can't care for her properly, I become her legal guardian." She went pale. "He planned for this?" "He's a good father," I said. "Good fathers prepare." Emma didn't understand the papers, but she felt the tension. She reached out, her little hand resting on Sandra's. "I don't want you to be sad," she whispered. "I just want someone to remember to pick me up." That broke Sandra. Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I'm sorry, Em. I'm so sorry. But I'd seen plenty of apologies in my life. Some real, some cheap." "Words are easy," I told her. "Actions matter." She nodded through tears. "You're right. I don't know if I'm cut out for this. I'm not like Miguel's first wife. No one's born a parent," I said, softer this time. "But you start by showing up. Every day, no excuses." Emma wrapped her arms around Sandra's neck and whispered, "I can help you remember." "We can make a schedule like Daddy used to make for his work," Emma said. That one simple line from her hit harder than anything Sandra had said all night. This kid had every reason to be mad, to shut down, to say, "I hate you," and storm off. Instead, she was offering help, solutions, grace. You don't see that kind of heart every day. I got to my feet, and when I stood up, the whole room seemed smaller. I'd spent the last 20 minutes listening, watching, measuring both of them, the woman who'd been slipping and the little girl who still wanted to believe in her. "All right," I said, my voice steady. "Here's what's going to happen. I've given orders on the road, in bars, in bad situations and good ones. This wasn't a threat. This was structure. And that little girl needed structure like she needed air." "First," I said, looking Sandra dead in the eye, "Emma is never left at school again, not once. If you can't pick her up for any reason, you call me, or Bones, or Tank, or Maria, any of us. We've set up a phone tree. There will always be someone available, no excuses." Sandra nodded fast. "Yes, absolutely. That makes sense. I can do that." "Second," I continued, "Emma spends regular time with us. Miguel arranged that before he left. She needs to stay connected to her extended family, and we need to see with our own eyes that she's okay." Emma's face lit up like Christmas. "For real? I can come to the clubhouse and see Auntie Maria." Every weekend if you want, Mia, I told her, finally allowing myself a small smile. And during the week if Sandra needs help. Sandra didn't look threatened by that. She just looked relieved. Like somebody had handed her a lifeline instead of a verdict. And third, I said, and I let my tone drop into something heavier. If anything like today ever happens again, if she's forgotten or neglected, I use that power of attorney immediately. No second chances, no long explanations. Emma's safety comes first. Always. Sandra swallowed hard but didn't try to argue. I understand. And, honestly, I think that's fair. She deserves that. I held my hand out to her. She hesitated for a second, then shook it. That handshake wasn't just between her and me. It was a deal made in front of Emma, with 100 brothers outside as witnesses. "Uncle Rico," Emma said, still sitting in Sandra's lap. "Will you and the others stay for dinner? Sandra makes really good spaghetti." I glanced over at Sandra, and to her credit, she didn't flinch. "Please," she said. "I'd like to cook for everyone. It's the least I can do." For the first time that night, I gave her a real smile. "I think the guys would like that, Mija. But I should warn you. It takes a lot of spaghetti to feed 100 hungry bikers." Emma giggled at the thought, and even Sandra laughed a little. The air in the room loosened. For the first time that day, the house felt less like a courtroom and more like a home. What happened next was one of the most unexpected dinners I've ever seen, and I've seen some wild things on the road. As soon as I stepped outside and gave the nod, everything changed gears. Bones was already on his phone, walking up the steps. "Tank and Wrench are heading to the grocery store," he called out. "Maria's grabbing her big pots, and Diesel's bringing the portable grills from the shop." In less than 10 minutes, Emma's quiet little front yard started looking like a tactical operation. Only, instead of weapons and gear, it was food, grills, coolers, and folding tables. From the outside, people think bikers are chaos. But when we decide to move, we move like a unit. Sandra watched it all from the kitchen window, wide-eyed. "I've never seen anything like this. How do they coordinate so fast?" "When you've ridden together as long as we have," I told her, checking a few texts on my own phone, "you learn to work as a team. Besides, half these guys have been looking for an excuse to drop by and check on Emma. Miguel made them promise to watch over her. They take that seriously." Maria was the first to arrive at the door, arms full of her own gear. Short woman, maybe mid-40s, hair pulled back in a tight ponytail, eyes sharp but kind. She hugged Emma like she'd just found a lost relative. "Hey, little one," she murmured, then turned to Sandra, sticking out a work-roughened hand. "You must be Sandra. I'm Maria. I help run the books for the club, and I've been worried about this girl." Sandra shook her hand. You could see the mix in her eyes, intimidated, but strangely relieved. I'm sorry about today," Sandra said. "About forgetting her. There's no excuse." Maria's face softened. "We all mess up, Mija. What matters is what you do after. Now, show me your kitchen. We're feeding an army." Emma lit up, bouncing between them like a little helper. Maria started opening cabinets, checking what pots, pans, and dishes she had to work with. Outside, more bikes pulled in as riders unloaded bags, coolers, and boxes. Tank showed up at the back door first, carrying enough groceries for a small restaurant. "Got pasta, sauce, bread, salad stuff, and about 6 kinds of cheese," he rumbled. "Wrench is bringing the meat and drinks in his truck." Emma ran over and hugged his massive leg like it was a tree trunk. "Uncle Tank, I missed you." His face went from granite to sunshine in 1 second. He scooped her up in a giant bear hug. "Missed you too, Princess. Your daddy's been sending me pictures from over there. Says you're killing it in school. I got an A on my spelling test last week, she said proudly. That's what I'm talking about, Tank replied, setting her down gently. He's going to brag like crazy when he hears that. Sandra watched all of this like someone who'd stepped through a door into another world. These weren't monsters. They were uncles. Real ones. Then Wrench rolled up in his pickup, bed loaded with meat and cases of soda. Thin guy, pushing 60, hands stained by decades of brake dust and engine oil. When he spotted Emma, he lit up like a granddad at Christmas. "Hey, kiddo," he called. "Got something for you." He reached into his toolbox and pulled out a small, real wrench set, sized just right for her hands. "These are yours," he said. "Not toys, real tools. Your dad told me you were curious about engines." Emma held them like they were made of gold. "Thank you, Uncle Wrench. Will you show me how to use them?" "You bet I will," he grinned. "But first, we better help with this food before Rico starts looking mean." The next hour was controlled chaos in the best way. Grills appeared and were set up with military precision. Tables and folding chairs came out of trailers and trucks. Someone strung up lights in the yard. Another guy wired a small sound system and put on classic rock, low enough not to bother the neighbors. Inside, Sandra and Maria worked side by side in the kitchen, stirring huge pots of pasta, sauce, and garlic bread trays. As they cooked, Maria talked. "Miguel never shuts up about Emma when he calls," she said, adding spices without even measuring. Her grades, her art projects. How she hates math some days and loves it the next. We all feel like we know her. Sandra froze for a second, wooden spoon in hand. "I should know more of that," she admitted quietly. "I should already know all those details." Maria looked at her straight on. "So, start now. It's not too late. She's worth the effort." Meanwhile, outside, Emma was in heaven. She moved from group to group, one biker showing her pictures from a mountain ride, another explaining how his patches worked, another asking what subjects she liked in school. Every conversation circled back to the same person, her dad. Bones was showing her photos on his phone when I walked over. "See that?" Bones pointed at a picture of a forested overlook. "That's where your daddy and I camped last year. He said you'd love it. Stream runs right by the campsite." "Can we go when Daddy comes home?" she asked, eyes glowing. "Count on it," Bones said. "We're already planning something big for him." As the sun went down, the lights outside started to glow, and the backyard turned into something almost magical. Nearly 100 people, leather, denim, tattoos, patches, all eating, laughing, talking. Some neighbors peeked over the fence, then got waved inside. Mrs. Johnson from next door brought an apple pie. Mr. Peterson from across the street showed up with a guitar and was soon leading a sing-along near one of the grills. Emma sat between me and Sandra at one of the picnic tables. A big plate of spaghetti in front of her, cheeks happy, eyes bright. "Uncle Ro," she said, twirling pasta on her fork, "is this what family dinners are supposed to feel like?" I looked around, the laughter, the stories, the clatter of plates, the sense that everyone there would drop everything if she needed them. "Yeah, Mija," I said, "this is exactly what family dinners should feel like. Lots of people, lots of food, and a whole lot of love." Sandra heard that and got quiet. Then she leaned toward Emma. "I promise," she said softly, "we're going to have more dinners like this. Maybe not with 100 bikers every time, but dinners where you know you're loved and important." Emma turned to her, hope written all over her face. "With Uncle Ro and Auntie Maria and everybody." Sandra took a breath and nodded. "Whenever we can, we'll make it a real thing." I gave her a small nod of approval. That was a start. As night settled in, people started cleaning up automatically, picking up trash, folding tables, loading grills back into trucks. No one had to be told. It's just how we operate. Before anyone left, every single rider made sure to say goodbye to Emma. She hugged each one like they were all pieces of a big, living shield around her. They gave her phone numbers, told her which name belonged to which contact, and made her promise she'd call if she ever felt scared or alone. When it was my turn to say goodnight, I knelt down so we were level. "Remember, Misha," I told her. "You're never on your own, not ever. You've got family in more places than you know, and we're always just a phone call away." She nodded, taking that in like it was law, which, to us, it was. We fired up the bikes one by one, the engines filling the night again. She and Sandra stood in the driveway, waving until our tail lights vanished around the corner. The street went quiet, but nothing was the same. Emma wasn't just some kid people forgot anymore. She was claimed. 3 weeks went by after that night, and Emma's world shifted in all the right ways. Sandra and I stuck to what we said. We built a routine. No more, maybe, no more, I forgot. Everything went on a calendar. Every morning, Sandra sat with Emma at breakfast. Coffee on one side, juice on the other, going over the day like they were a little team. "Okay," Sandra would say, putting scrambled eggs in front of her. "Today is Wednesday. I pick you up right after school. We go to the grocery store. Then Maria's coming over to help us make cookies for Daddy's care package." At the mention of the care package, Emma always lit up. They'd been working on it for days. Snacks, little drawings, letters, photos, and now homemade cookies. Every cookie had a little bit of her hope baked into it. Every letter was a bridge across the miles between their house and some base far away. "And this weekend," Emma said that morning, glancing at the calendar they'd hung on the fridge, "Uncle Rico is taking me to see the new motorcycles at the shop, right?" And this time, there was no doubt, no guess, no "we'll see." Because now, her life was scheduled, protected, and watched over. Not just by one adult who might forget, but by an entire family that refused to. "That's right," Sandra told Emma as she sat down across from her with her own breakfast. "And on Sunday afternoon we're all going to Tank's birthday barbecue at the park." By this point, hearing plans that involved the club had become completely normal for Emma. What used to feel overwhelming to Sandra now fit into her life as naturally as breathing. At first, she had been intimidated by the idea of merging her world with a motorcycle club. But she'd learned fast. These people weren't criminals or chaos. They were just an unconventional family who rode big machines, ate big meals, and loved even bigger. And the changes in Emma, they showed up everywhere. At school, she seemed like a whole new kid. Mrs. Henderson told us quietly one afternoon that Emma had blossomed, more confident, more outspoken, more willing to participate and help others. That fearful shadow she once carried behind her eyes was gone, replaced with a steady brightness that only comes from feeling protected and valued. "Emma's become one of our brightest stars," Mrs. Henderson told Sandra during a parent-teacher meeting. "She's always been smart, but now she's letting herself shine." Her creative writing had exploded with emotion and imagination. She volunteered for responsibilities. She encouraged her classmates. She was turning into the kind of kid teachers quietly brag about in the staff room. Sandra didn't just nod through the meeting. She listened. She asked questions. She had started reading Emma's assignments with real interest. And the more she read, the more she realized this little girl had depth, real depth, thoughts, dreams, ideas, all waiting for someone to pay attention. And Sandra finally was. Their relationship had shifted into something honest, something shared. Sandra stopped seeing Emma as a burden dropped into her lap. She began seeing the kid as she truly was, a compassionate, resilient, funny little person who just needed someone to show up. "You know what I've learned?" Sandra told Maria one afternoon while they chopped vegetables for yet another big dinner. "Being a parent isn't about being perfect, it's about being present." Maria smiled as she diced tomatoes. "Miguel will be so relieved to hear you say that. He worried Emma wouldn't have the stability she needed." "She has more than stability now," Sandra said. "She has a whole community that loves her. I used to resent that. I thought it meant I wasn't enough. Now I see how lucky she is, and how lucky I am." And it wasn't just talk. The entire club had built a system around Emma that would make any social worker cry from happiness. We created a pickup rotation so she'd never be forgotten again. Bones tutored her in math every Tuesday, discovering she had a natural gift for numbers. Wrench was teaching her the basics of engines, told her mechanical skills were going to take her far in life. Maria and Tank practically became bonus grandparents. But the biggest change was the way Emma stayed connected to her father. Every week, without fail, we set up a video call for Miguel. Sometimes 5 or 6 of us squeezed into the screen with Emma, showing him her drawings, her spelling tests, bike parts she'd cleaned, cookies she'd baked, everything. "Daddy, look," she said on one call, holding up a spark plug she'd cleaned herself. "Uncle Wrench says I have natural mechanical instincts." Miguel's face lit up with pride you could feel through the pixels. "That's incredible, mija. Your abuelo would be so proud. He always said mechanical skills run in the family." "And Daddy," Emma added, practically bouncing, "Sandra and I are planning your welcome home party. Uncle Rico said we can use the clubhouse, and Auntie Maria's making your favorite enchiladas, and Tank's going to barbecue, and everybody's coming." Miguel laughed through tears, real tears. "That sounds perfect, sweetheart." After Emma went to bed that night, Sandra and Miguel talked privately for the first time in months. "Thank you," Miguel said quietly. "I see the difference in her. I see the difference in you." Sandra swallowed, emotional. "I almost failed her, Miguel. But your friends, they saved her. They saved me too. They showed me what family actually means." "That's what they do," Miguel replied with a knowing smile. "They didn't give up on me when I was young and stupid. They didn't give up on Emma. And they didn't give up on you." As months passed, Emma's life transformed completely. She wasn't just the kid who'd once been forgotten, she was now the heart of a community. The club opened college funds for her. They created mentorship networks for when she reached her teenage years. They built a structure that would guide her all the way into adulthood if she needed it. Most importantly, they gave her a definition of family that would carry her through life. The kind chosen with love, loyalty, and commitment. 6 months later, on a warm Saturday afternoon, Emma sat on my motorcycle in the driveway, wearing her helmet and vibrating with excitement. We were heading to the airport. Miguel was finally coming home. "You ready, mija?" I asked as Sandra climbed onto Tank's bike behind us. "I've been ready forever," she shouted through her helmet. The ride to the airport was even bigger than the one that rescued her that first night. Word had spread. Other chapters showed up, old friends, people from different states. Nearly a sea of motorcycles rolled through Bakersfield like a moving celebration. Emma felt powerful, safe, loved. Not rescued anymore, just surrounded. At the airport, Miguel stepped out in his uniform, scanning the crowd until he spotted his daughter sprinting toward him. Their embrace was something sacred, something nobody in that crowd would forget. When he finally pulled away, tears in his eyes, he came straight to me. "Thank you," he said, voice thick. "Thank you for keeping your promise." I clapped him on the shoulder. "That's what family does, brother." And this time, as we headed home, Emma didn't ride behind me. She rode beside me, on her father's motorcycle. Our convoy filled the road, engines roaring like a living heartbeat. That night, the backyard was full again. Laughter, food, hugs, stories, the whole community celebrating Miguel's return. Emma sat between him and Sandra, watching the sunset paint the sky gold and red. "Daddy," she said softly, "I used to think family was just the people who live in your house, but now I know it's everyone who chooses to love you." Miguel pulled her close. "That's the most important lesson you'll ever learn, mija." As the bikes eventually fired up to head home, Emma hugged each one of her extended family members. She didn't cry. She didn't worry. She just smiled, because she knew they'd always come back. Because she wasn't forgotten anymore, not ever. Standing in the driveway between Sandra and Miguel, she watched the taillights fade into the night. Behind her glowed the warm light of a home, finally filled with love. Ahead of her stretched a future held up by loyalty, protection, and people who would never let her fall. She'd waited for her real family. And one day they answered her. Not with excuses, not with apologies, but with the thunder of 100 motorcycles and a promise that would last forever.